There we go. There we go. Testing, testing. The mic should be working now properly, guys. I'm going to wait until... There we go. There we go. Testing, testing. Cool, that was us. Everything sounds great. Glad we did that before we jumped in here. What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Walker Talkers, brought to you by PanNerdia. I'm Aaron.
I'm Pete.
And we're going to get right into it, guys. We're going to recap what happened last week on Episode 9 of Season 8B of The Walking Dead. And then we're going to jump into what we think is going to happen in tonight's episode, Episode 10.
Walker Talkers, Walker Talkers, Walker Talkers,
Walker Talkers, Walker Talkers,
Walker Talkers, Walker Talkers.
And he's like, Walker Talkers.
We need a beat for that, you know.
Yeah.
We need an intro. Somewhere down the road, maybe we'll have a little intro music.
Oh, yeah. Show's going to evolve. You guys will see.
Yeah.
You probably don't even notice that this background, though it's still gray, is actually slightly different than last week's. But you won't find out why.
Oh.
So, fucking, let's get right into it, man. Let's get some dirt out of the way. Let's do some spring cleaning, as it were.
What did we watch last week? We made some predictions right before the show. We hope that you joined us because we know pre-gaming with us is probably the best choice before watching the show, whether it's recorded or live.
Right.
And then watching Talking Dead with Chris Hardwick. And then after that, you can go blast comments at their producers and whatnot.
So if you guys are looking for some real raw talk about the Walkers and everything else involving The Walking Dead, be sure to come back every Sunday before the show to PanNerdia and check us two bozos talk about this stuff. If you like it, hit that like button, and if you want some more, subscribe, and you'll get more content from us.
So to start off this apocalyptic chat, I guess I would have to start to get it out of the way. Let's talk about Carl Grimes.
Carl.
For the last time. Well, Jackson here still wearing a little Carl outfit. Lost his hat, but you know.
Carl.
Still got the gauze on. But we now can confirm the dream sequences are just Carl's vision of the future and what he wants and what he's trying to push people to do. I mean, everyone's probably watching and saying, yeah, well, tell me what I don't know. Well, we also can confirm that it was a real walker bite. We kind of already knew that too. Some people didn't catch it when it actually happened. A lot of people did. But even the people that did thought, well, you know, in the book,
yeah, because they're
survives that such a thing. Oh no, but no, not on the TV series.
No, he's out. He's kaput, and though it was indeed his swan song.
It was great. He did a great job.
They did.
At first, it was like I got bit, and I'm like, that's it. But they kept going back and forth to Carl saying his goodbyes and his letters, and of course the fabulous scene with Michonne and Rick in the burnt-out chapel. What a great set that was.
That was really good. I like that.
And I think Chandler even said himself that he never had a set like that before, and they even had it smell, you know, like the air, like the soot smell and everything like that.
So it really put him in that scene.
The last time I heard any Walking Dead actor talk about the set being so realistic was, I guess, Denise and some others went into a pharmacy, and they found like that baby shoe in the back room or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But like they talked about how the floors were spongy and everything. Like they really did an amazing. I mean, I think that adds the effect. I mean,
it does.
Actor experienced or not, like you create a cool set like that.
Well, it's like in Terminus.
It gives them more to work with. Like
right.
Real stuff.
Well, it was like in Terminus, and sorry to get off topic, guys, but like in Terminus when they had him over the troughs and they were hitting him with a baseball bat and cutting their throats. They didn't tell the actors that they had, fake blood squirting rigs in those guys before them throats. So they would slit that shit, and the blood started squirting out and going down the trough. And, like, that was all right there. Like, their reactions was like, holy fuck, they did all that? But they had, like, shit over their mouth so they couldn't talk. So they're like, so it really made them think, like, oh, fuck, So that puts them in the scene. It's great.
What a great thing. I mean, out of all the stuff they wrote into the show that's not part of the book, the Terminus stuff, like, wolves weren't in it. Terminus wasn't it, but the Terminus stuff was great, top-notch stuff.
I liked it. I enjoyed
everything from like the trail there to Carol blowing shit up to all of it is great. But anyway, we're talking about episode 9 with Carl Grimes and
so that dream sequence, man, that was it was really odd because there were some weird things in there that you're like, and at the end when they finally showed like the last person at the end of his little sequence. And it's who else but fucking Negan.
Oh, yes. They threw a little Negan in there with a big shit-eating grin.
Oh,
Pardon
God.
my French, but man, after that, the most sad scene in like Walking Dead history, Aaron and I had to chuckle. I mean, he's like, "How are you, darling?" You know, or whatever it was. And he sure enough was picking tomatoes or something, you know.
Right.
So
You're just like, huh.
But like, how do you not laugh at that? I mean, I'm sure they put it there for a reason. You gotta
Yeah, it was somewhat of a palate cleanser and kind of slap you back into like, what the fuck?
You know what I thought of on the way over here was when we first saw these visions of Carl's before we knew exactly what it was.
Right.
We weren't sure if it was a flash forward or not. I would have sworn his voice was in the background saying, "Dad, would you put that music on?" He goes, "I didn't pick that song," or something like that.
Yeah, it was.
But maybe that's just more proof that, like, when you have dreams and you're talking to someone, you never really see yourself.
See yourself, right.
You know, and when you do see yourself, well, you've crossed to another dimension.
What? So, yeah, okay.
Unfortunately, we had to endure the hipster banjo music during Carl's first day of saying his goodbyes and spending time with Judith and whatnot.
God, it's so cliche.
But like the music, if it was, I mean, it kind of like made me like, really? Like, if it wasn't for the music, I probably would have been crying just watching him do the handprints with Judith and stuff.
Right.
But the only thing that really choked me up, besides a little bit when he said bye to Daryl and some other people, is when he was in the chapel and he said, "I love you" to his dad. And like, you know, I have a son, so like nose to nose with each other, saying that, knowing you're not going to see him ever again.
Right.
Like, no father should be burying his child, but you know, it is the apocalypse, and Walking Dead, no one is safe.
Oh, and then Carl took the high road and was like, "I'll fucking end my own life."
Yeah, after all that, like, it should be someone that loves you thing, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they told Michonne.
Like the first fall of Alexandria, and they were like, you know, killing all the other main characters that were
like,
zombified.
I got it. Whoa.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
Pretty intense, man. And then now this one, what's the guy's name?
Sadiq.
Sadiq.
Yeah,
he's like kind of filling his shoes in a way.
They discovered he's a doctor. He was a resident and all that. And
That's
of course,
cool.
Rick's like, it's because he's a doctor. He goes, nope, I was just doing the right thing because he's a mirror image of what we should be like, and we need him, he needs us, kind of thing. And
that's cool.
The sewer set, though, was probably one of my favorite sets. I think I said that in last week's show.
That was a good set.
But what an amazing set. I thought they actually were on location somewhere, just not necessarily underground, one of those open sewers, you know.
Right.
But it was built for the
that
scene, and
that's
it was
pretty cool.
Ominous, I guess you could say. It was very, you know, very Walking Dead. We haven't seen anything like that since the prison. Well, besides all his farewells to Judith and Daryl and his dad and Michonne, Rick, his farewell to Michonne and Rick, both in the sewer and in the Charred Chapel, did cover all the basis on their apocalyptic years to date. I mean, he brought up when he shot that kid that like was about to put the gun down at the prison. I totally forgot about that.
See, I remembered about that.
I mean, when he brought that up, like, oh yeah, but it was totally like, you know, he's confessing to all the stuff he felt most awful about, you know.
Right.
And that was definitely one of them. And even as a kid, he realized, wow, that was way too easy when I was a kid, and like killing shouldn't be that easy. And that's the whole point he's trying to make.
Right, yeah, like I guess as he's maturing, he's realizing like it's not all that cool to be like to kill and be like what these adults are doing. Like maybe he looked up to him a certain degree, but now he's like starting to realize like, you know what? Like perhaps, you know, if we want to rebuild Earth, then we gotta start thinking as we want to. We gotta start trying to bring in those who we know we can grow with and not try to separate us from everything around.
Well, it's definitely a setup for the future. I mean, that scene, I have to say, Rick and Michonne carrying Carl through the burning Alexandria, you know, and all that was an iconic camera shot. And there's every like few episodes, there's like an iconic camera shot. Like, you know, we talked about perspective last week. This time it was, you know, Carl's limping, they're holding him up, trying to find a spot, any spot. Meanwhile, everyone else has already fled. They're going up to Hilltop or doing whatever their plan is that we're going to hopefully find out here in episode 10 it's going to start. But, you know, that's, I guess, that like I already said, the ending goodbye, I love you was the hardest thing probably. But the fact that he 86'd himself and the scene cuts to Carl, his a Carl vision of an 8-year-old Judith saying hello to tomato picking Negan was good morning, darling. That was well, I don't see another episode ending like that. Let's just put it that way.
Right. That was like that was a palate cleanser.
I don't ever see Negan freely walking about with Rick's group, whoever Rick's group is in the future.
Well, speaking of how the episode ended, and we can still fill in some spots before we talk about episode 10. Remember how we kept showing those scenes where, Rick was like bloodshot red, like he just smoked a big old doob and was like crying and saying,
They do that a lot to us, don't they?
They do, and they showed us, and then finally at the end of the episode, they showed it where the stained glass was hanging from a tree. They finally showed the tree he was under.
Where do you think that's at?
And he was like really crying, and almost like he looked like he had some blood on him. I couldn't tell.
Oh, dude,
what was going on there? And where was that at?
I'm glad you brought that up because
and they're like boom, and then the episode
that was the first scene and the last scene of episode 9. Red, pale, dripping Rick. Seems like it might be a prelude to a scene in a handful of episodes ahead, or maybe sooner. Mm-hmm. But it was revisited in the last clip at the credits, and I think the quote was like, "Let mercy prevail over my wrath." In other words, like, let me do this Carl's way. But I think at that point, with his like wound up, under his chest area, and like blood all over his hand, I think that blood on his hand and his arm is someone else's, or it could have been his from holding on to his wound. He had a strap around his leg. I think it was just a gun or knife strap, though. So like instantly, I start to think, well, as a co-host of Walker Talkers, I have to say, is it, part of the last stand where he confronts Negan face to face at the very last episode of this season, and those wounds are because of that last sort of face-off between him and Negan,
right?
Or is it something much sooner?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. It was definitely like, I'll put it this way: they did as much as I didn't want it to be like all Carl for episode 9. Mm-hmm. They, in fact, did pace it really nice. They were able to still kind of move the story along.
I was very pleased.
Sprinkle in that
We were worried of 82 minutes of Swan Song.
Right.
But they went back and forth, and it was well done. I mean, they kept the story moving. And speaking of keeping the story moving, Morgan with the sniper scope at the beginning on the 200
Morgan.
walkers.
Oh, my God. I forgot. Okay, we have to talk about Morgan.
We're going to talk about all Morgan here on out because...
What the fuck?
But we have to start off with this. Last week, I was really boggled on how Eugene's plan worked for the sanctuary escape. But then we found out with the Morgan sniper scene, because he's on the walkie-talkie doing play-by-play on what's going on when everything hits the fan. And that is, they basically, the saviors were instructed to rush the windows and shoot at an angle and get all the walkers to fall down at specific spots, like basically... whenever they came between certain amount of feet of that door that goes underneath and like the stairs that go above, that's where they'd shoot them. So they would have rows of dead bodies that would border between that door and the rest of the herd. So that's when they came out and they shot at Morgan because they knew where he was. They saw a sniper scope there for days probably.
Somebody was scoping him
out. So they were shooting him instantly as they were running out. So that's basically it. So it's kind of like... really? Like that was the master plan? But let's just move on because what Morgan did after that...
Oh, God, dude.
I mean, rewatching it, I already mentioned that. Eugene's plan mentioned that.
Morgan's past clear mode.
Yeah, so Gavin was driving the lead of 4 Savior car vehicles, and his car was just him. So there wasn't very many of Gavin's group. Probably about 20 max, I would say. Yeah. That sounds about right from looking at the cars.
And for Gavin, who you guys don't remember or not familiar, Gavin's that like real depressing motherfucker. He works for Negan.
He's one of the 4 big lieutenants.
Lieutenants, yeah. He was like he was the one who worked directly with the Kingdom.
Correct. Yeah. And that voice that he has was like, it's like some people would probably say, well, they kind of felt for him in a way because they liked his character towards the end, but like. Every line that he had, he did so well, just picking up the cantaloupes, all the way to like his demise in this episode. But Gavin driving, Morgan follows them to the Kingdom where Carol has devised her own plan. Sophia's little brother in real life, the actress, plays Henry.
Yeah, the kid who just wants to...
and he wanted to help out. And that Nadia, whatever, the scarf lady, she has one line in the whole episode, and it's my favorite line. She says to Carol, what I write here? Oh, you versus all of them? And Carol's like, yep. And she goes, they don't stand a chance. Like that's
she's gonna be that one line.
And you know, all the Carol fans, including myself, are like, yeah, you go in there. And I'm like, she can do this on her own. She doesn't even need Morgan.
Like, I'm making a shirt of that shit.
But Gavin gabs with Ezekiel while Morgan meets up with Carol because Morgan's looking for Henry. Saw Henry running around, and they launch a sneak assault on every one of Gavin's men, one at a time. Fatal like stabs through the necks and the chest and stuff, and
the fucking gruesome twosome, bro.
Oh yeah, that's way better. I was gonna say the dynamic duo, but it was gruesome.
The gruesome fucking twosome.
But before Henry takes out Gavin, you know, like they go into the theater and they get basically they're cornered, and Carol and Morgan, they have the explosives, so they're all looking at the door where the explosives went off, and Ezekiel ducks down, he gets a hold of a weapon, and they basically wipe out Gavin's group. But what's the best scene in the whole episode?
With Morgan. The in-trail fucking mime game. Dude, he literally reached inside of a man with his bare fucking hands, kung fu style. He's totally going full circle with the whole fucking martial arts thing now.
I think I have to give Chris Hardwick credit. I watched Talkie Dead afterwards, and he was like, it was like a clown pulling a scarf, like an endless scarf out of a sleeve or something like that. It really was, and it was such a great scene. We needed that, and we needed Gavin to die. We need someone to die. We can't go through all that Carl business and not have some bad guy perish. And that
by
wish
the hands
came
of
true.
A badass in our squad, and by the fucking Terminator himself, fucking Clear House Morgan.
yes, indeed.
Dude,
well, after Morgan goes all Michael Myers on the small squads of Gavin's group, you know, Gavin's the only one remaining, and after he gets wounded in the leg, he hobbles out, and the rest of the Morgan scene is literally like a horror movie of like the crazy killer stalking the prey. Gavin's the prey. I mean, everything from Gavin like crawling crab style backwards, and all of a sudden like a door opening up or a piece of wood panel opening up, and Morgan's just standing there. Like, he's not there immediately trying to kill him. He's like there to like stalk him and corner him, and like, you're not going anywhere. You're all alone now.
They did a good job, but you know, this is one thing Walking Dead does do. If they're not focusing particularly on the walkers at the time, or just the drama, because it's been compared to like a horror soap opera before, they do a good job of bringing other horror elements in to the show. Even if it's one of the characters we know and love, like Morgan being like that, that's fucking frightening, man. That really puts that horror aspect back into the show, and that's one of the characters we know and love. It's almost going back to like the Terminus shit. Back when they finally trapped the Terminus people to come into the church, like they got them, and then Rick comes around the corner and shoots him, and they all fucking murder him.
Oh man,
that was our team doing that, and it was like a fucking watching a horror movie. Like, I got creeps watching that shit.
Yeah,
they do a good job of that.
They do a great job of back and forth. I'm like, well, if they're bad, then what are we? Like, we're doing this, we're doing all these awful things. It's like, well, it's just either them or us. Then they go back and forth from a them or us attitude to a let's find people, let's bring them in, let's build a civilization. Geez,
it's a dog-eat-dog world, man.
Yeah, and that's the greatest thing about this being a horror series. I mean, it really is a horror series initially, is that it still connects with more of a human element behind it, because it is about the people, not about the zombies in the movie. And the fact that they have to survive, and they go crazy, and even people with no genetic backgrounds or medical backgrounds of mental issues are going nuts because they're losing loved ones, and they're seeing things that are so horrible that, you know, some people see one horrible thing because they're a soldier at war, and they have flashbacks, and they take meds, and they go crazy, and they commit suicide, and it's awful. Well, in an apocalypse like this, like, of course Rick Grimes is going to be going like a yo-yo back and forth with his emotions.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at this point, morality's, and you guys know this if you watch the shows out the fucking door, it's kind of you do what you got to do, but try to keep in some of that humanity around.
So, Morgan aside for just a second, I have a question. Is Simon, or at least two lesser-ranked remaining savior leaders, getting 86th in episode 10 coming up right now?
That's a good transition into talking about episode 10. I think Simon is, because he was in the preview, correct?
This is the thing. The sneak peeks are some of my favorite because it gives us the most we can work with in a prediction show. And they show basically Simon getting chewed out by Negan because of the whole coffin thing, you know, with
Magsters.
Maggie's bargaining box, I guess you can call it.
I like that.
And
bargain box.
Yeah, but he basically wants Simon to man up and do something, and obviously he goes to Jadis, the leader of the scavengers, face to face, and we all know what happened with Rick when he went face to face with her. Can Simon survive it, or is Simon going to go in there and just like, you're not going to agree with me? Fine, I'm just going to start killing everyone. And that's
right. He might not do the same route.
He doesn't negotiate as well as Negan.
Rick.
Right. Well, no, not yeah. He's just he has the right attitude for a bad guy, but like closing as being a closer, like he just lets his emotions get the best of him.
He does, yes.
And I think that maybe he's either going to die or he's going to be like crawling back home because everyone he took with him either got captured or died.
Right, and then at that point he could show up back to with Negan and being like, I fucked, and then Negan will end it.
Yeah, or Negan will end him.
At that point, you know.
A lot of people online are saying, is Simon going to go in there and just kill everybody? Like, in other words, Simon's going to go in there, kill everyone. Maybe Jadis is going to be like one of the few people that gets away so they can continue her character.
I just don't see Simon going in there and going on a killing
I don't
spree.
see Jadis dying, whether she becomes the leader of the Whisperers or not.
Yeah, she's not, definitely.
She's not. The celebrity interviews, you can sort of tell that they're...
I did remember seeing something. Maybe
they're further into it.
Maybe there was a preview of the whole season entirely, but there was a scene when it showed her, Jadis is her name. Mm-hmm. It showed her like it looked like it showed her crying. You remember seeing that scene?
No.
It was like in the overall like this half of the season preview. What's ahead thing?
Oh.
And it showed her like she looked like she was crying at some point.
That has to be her being like one of the last remaining of her people.
Right. And I don't want to misguide anybody from what I'm remembering. But exactly. That kind of sets it up that if he does in fact, Simon does in fact go in there and, go into freak out mode because he's trying to clean up what he fucked up on. And those junk people are the victims, she could very well, because that's her family, though they're very simple-minded to a degree. Not minded, but just simple in terms of everything they go about their life.
Communication, day-to-day, everything. Right. Yes.
Though they're like that, doesn't mean that she probably still has a deep connection to them and what they've done to help her and how they're surviving together. They're still family. There's a bond there, so I'm sure if she loses them, she's already pretty much on cuckoo land. The Cuckoo Express.
It makes you wonder if this was on HBO, what would we see? Because like we saw Jadis in like a smock doing artwork with metal. It's like,
oh, you would have seen her tits already.
And the way that she talks about sex, like it's just a mechanical thing that she's going to do and let you know this is going to happen. Like she tried to hook up with Rick a couple times.
Dude, me and Pete's talked about this before, guys. If this show's on like HBO or Cinemax or Stars or any of those fucking channels. Yeah. People would be fucking all the time because in the apocalypse that's what you're going to be doing to either pass the time or just feel a little better.
They're not grabbing that extra target market of people that just want to watch the TNA.
But it would also it would lead to more. It would also, besides just the TNA,
be more real.
It would be more real and more dramatic because they would actually have even more violence than what they're allowed to get away with on AMC, which is astounding of what they can get away with there. On HBO, it would take it to the next level, and I'm not just talking about the violence, just I feel like even the emotion, because they would cuss, and I'm not saying that needs to be a part of the dialogue for it to really push it, elevate it, but I think even in Apocalypse, when it's that gritty and grimy, something like that would elevate it a little more even.
Agreed.
And you would have an hour to flesh out each fucking episode.
If it weren't for their excellent camera work and direction, I think they would be lacking something, and that would be the TNA. But because they're so brilliant, they got
they're
the right
aesthetic,
actors,
and they got the right people working on the special effects, practical, and not. They got it going. Don't get me wrong, but it could be elevated if they had just slightly more of a open platform.
I'm not sure. This is a kind of an off to the side thing, and I'll make it quick. You think Carl, since it was his show to like get everyone in the sewer and all that, did he devise a plan for like whatever they had left over, ammo, medication, all that?
That's a good question.
Or do you think they're kind of like they have the clothes on their back and they're waiting for Negan's group to leave, and then they left too, and that was it?
Wait, didn't they at some point hide a bunch of their guns back last season when Negan was doing his whole like counting thing? Didn't
the inventory,
they hide them somewhere?
Well,
and then I don't think he ever told them where they were, did he?
I don't know. I mean,
can't remember.
I'm not too sure. All I know is that inventory with Denise, like there was only one gun missing, and it was the Spencer before they pulled his guts out.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I was at the bookstore the other day, and I totally forgot that Spencer died exactly like he did in the show as he did in the comics, or blah blah blah, vice versa. Sorry, I said that backwards. But like, and Negan pulls the guts out and said, "Oh, there's his guts right there. You got guts after all." And it just made me laugh. It's like, oh, Morgan did that to one of the guys at Kingdom in this recent episode. So like,
Clear.
Paying homage to past episodes or not, we need more of that goriness. We can't just have all dialogue and sadness.
Gore and viscera.
Yeah, right. So here's a good quote. Daryl's quote. We haven't talked about Daryl at all.
Yeah, because he's like been kind of in the shadows.
Yeah, and it's just a typical kind of like one-liner from Daryl, but it's like,
oh yeah,
all of us together will be their worst nightmare. And then the hair, and he's like, he just walks off.
Oh god, that was like the one-liner to fucking kill all one-liners, dude.
Yeah, watching everyone in the sewer. We talked about that. Gavin, stop picking dingles. Pick up your walkies. Remember that when he was like, before he discovered like, oh, like my men are not alive,
like all slaughtered, right?
And then what else with Gavin? After Morgan goes all Michael Myers on the small squads of Gavin's group, Gavin is the only one remaining from the theater shootout. Although wounded, Morgan rips the guts out. That's right. We already said that. There's really not much else to talk about. I think we covered it. I didn't even have to check my
Well, what do you think?
Here.
Let's wrap up. We'll be real quick what we think's going to happen tonight. We'll let these folks know what we got coming up in the future.
All right.
We'll let them enjoy their episode. Predictions.
Simon and or other lieutenant dies after the meeting with Janice. Yes or no? Check.
Yes.
Second one out of 4 things. Oceanside travels to Hilltop, but at what cost?
Ooh.
Right?
That was in the previews too, wasn't it? Something
I think they were trying to round them up
I would like to see that.
Edith was finally having dialogue, so she wasn't in too much deep trouble.
I would like to see that. Okay.
I say even an even number of Saviors and Oceanside people die. Like they come into contact somewhere on the way.
Okay.
But then I don't know. The Saviors are pretty depleted.
Yeah, I'm not. I would love to see stuff with the Oceanside. Whether somebody from that little mini group's gonna die or not this episode is, I don't know. I would definitely say one of the lieutenants are going down. One of the Oceanside people probably not, but definitely something involving them coming together.
All right. What about this? If Eugene, Dr. Carson, and Gabriel are en route to Hilltop, will Eugene confront Maggie or not even travel to the Hilltop at all? Like in the book, I think he travels with. And that's like his defection or whatever.
I feel like at this point he's got a lot to reprimand.
Yeah.
So he kind of needs to fucking go to Hilltop, or at this point he's completely lost in my book because he's already in fucking Puss Town as it is.
Oh man.
And if he doesn't go and reprimand and be like stand up like a man and take care of what he needs
Those long scenes in the first half of episode 8 of him like beating himself up mentally. Mm-hmm. What a waste of time.
I know.
That's fine to have like a few seconds, but like they kept going back to it. Like he was contemplating everything in his head. It's like, man.
And then he got after it, so he needs to continue to get after it, and then I might gain some more respect in the character. Obviously, the actor's funny as fuck, but I'm saying the character in general. Yeah. Otherwise, the character's lost in my book, and he might as well get fucking offed.
Last prediction. It's not necessarily a really good prediction, but I heard Andy Lincoln got 2 episodes off on this one this season. I wasn't sure if he already had one or not in the first half. But this could be one of them where they might just show some more of like those still shots of Rick, and he doesn't really have too many parts. I didn't see any Rick in the previews for episode 10. So we might not have any Rick. We might have a Rickless episode, which is okay.
It's alright because we didn't get Negan in the last episode, so it's pretty good, I think.
Man, Talking Dead though was uncomfortable for a lot of people, but like Chandler Riggs looked really uncomfortable. And the fact that they only had Greg Nicotero, the director guy, like with him, like no one else there. It's like Carl just died. Like, okay, they had a bunch of recorded little like comments.
Right from
they had little snips of people from on set, but they should have said their goodbyes like at least via satellite on like
something,
FaceTime.
Well, I'm sure they had their own like goodbye thing, and at that point it was almost like kicking a fucking dead horse.
Well, they did. They did do. Chandler Riggs did say that they all put eye patches on and surprised him, and Denai was crying like all the time about it. She's most emotional about it.
Right.
But you just know this and know this well. We're done talking about Carl. We're going to move into the future here. We're hoping we're going in the right direction, but with Carl gone, you know that all of us fans out here, when something goes wrong or something goes right in a weird way that we don't really like, it's all going to come back to Kirkman agreeing with Gimple that Carl should die at this point. Like, well, that wouldn't have happened if Carl was still alive. Or, well, you could have done something awesome if Carl was alive.
Right.
But hopefully they make us all look like fools and we discover a whole new great storyline that is better and bigger than anything else before.
I would
Just
love
don't
that.
kill Rick.
Right, because if you do that, then there's no fucking point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's really no. It's like getting rid of Goku off Dragon Ball Z. Get the fuck out of here. And we're going to get the fuck out of here and go check the episode. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Time to enjoy the enjoyment, and I hope you do as well, because Season 8 is going to be full of twists and turns. We don't know what's going to happen on and off the camera. Contractually. and story-wise.
Right. You know, because right now it's in the control, in the hands of somebody you might not want it in the hands of. So just keep your hopes up, guys. Just in all, when Sunday comes along and you guys are wanting to watch The Walking Dead, just turn off all the worries in the world.
Yeah.
And fucking just enjoy yourselves.
And pregame with us.
Yeah.
Walker tucker.
Walker doggers.
Join us soon.
Walker doggers.
Carl.
Peace, guys.